And now, coming to you live from an undisclosed location somewhere in the Ozark Mountains, it's Spooky Talk Show with Josh the Devil. And now, here he is, Josh the Devil.
Hey, that's right, welcome to Spooky Talk Show. I'm Josh, and what a show we've got for you tonight. It's a show. That's right. That's about all I can promise. No, really, we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about some stuff and do some things. And won't it be grand? I don't know. We'll find out. We've got Paul Hodge. He's our head writer here. He's going to be on the show tonight talking about what he's up to and giving us all the rundown about the local Little Rock stand-up comedy scene. That's right. So stay tuned. What do we got next week? Wow. So you've got that to look forward to. What else have you got for What else have you got to look forward to? Well, it's the monologue. That's right. Well, last week I forgot to push the buttons, and this week I'll forget to push the buttons as well. But last week, Netflix debuted a 4-part documentary on Jeffrey Epstein, detailing his alleged history of abusing underage girls. Now, the documentary illustrates one important point. Epstein didn't kill himself, but he should have. The CDC is warning that rats who have lacked access to food because of lockdown restrictions may become aggressive and cannibalistic. Murder hornets, cannibal rats. Sharknado is sounding less ridiculous every day. Can we get Sci-Fi Channel on the phone there? Can we get the? That's not even no, you're not. You're just a plant. I don't know why I'm talking to you. Well, that's okay. Forbes recently revoked Kylie Jenner. That's not Kylie Jenner. All right. Anyway, Forbes recently revoked Kylie Jenner's billionaire status, claiming Jenner inflated the sales figures of her cosmetic company and accused her team of forging tax returns to boost her net worth. Well, this story illustrates something a lot of reality stars lack in their life. Reality! I gotta get better timing on him. Don't feel too sorry for her, though. The revised estimate of her net worth is just under $900 million. And yet somehow she's still not the fakest person on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I'll let you be the judge of that one. Rupert Murdoch's News Corp is closing 112 print newspapers in Australia. Some will go to digital only, and some will be closed altogether. No printed newspapers? What's next? No place to tie up your horse outside the apothecary's shop? I don't know. Maybe we'll ask Paul about that joke later. Has he got something against apothecaries? I think he might. Now, this weekend, SpaceX launched 2 astronauts into space, headed for the International Space Station, marking the first time a private company has sent people into space. It costs much less to send people into space using SpaceX's Crew, or SpaceX's Dragon, which is, look at it, I mean, it's the thing, than NASA launches. Now, it's thought that the lower cost could eventually make it possible for everyday people to visit space as private astronauts. Are we everyday people? That can't be me. Well, this is great timing from a marketing perspective, because if there's one thing people want to do right now, it's get off this planet. Let's use all the sound effects. Just use them all. Just use them all, because there's Nickelback. And when there's Nickelback, there's nothing left to say. Well, there is one thing left to say, and that is you should jump over on our Instagram page. You should jump over on our Facebook page. And we've even got Twitter. And now the beautiful thing about Twitter is you can get a little interactive with us over there on Twitter. And when probably starting next week, we're going to be sending out some little polls, some little suggestions from you guys that we're going to need. And we'll put them on the show next week. That's right. I've completely run out of content, and I need you. Please Please send us some corny jokes. No, it's going to be okay. Also, you can check out our Patreon page. Now, our Patreon will let you sign up for as little as $1 a month, and that gets you access to our timeline, which has all sorts of behind-the-scenes photos and links to private videos that you couldn't otherwise see, and it'll help you become part of the action if you're so inclined. We do a lot of little virtual reality and online things where you could be part of the action as long as you at least tell us that you can improv. You don't have to be able to do it. You just have to be able to tell us you can do it. Yeah. Anyway, if that's not your thing, you can always jump over to our Teespring page and take a look at the t-shirts and coffee mugs and hooded sweatshirts and stuff we've got over there. And maybe you see something that strikes your fancy, and that's a great way to support our little silly show. Well, I guess there's nothing left to say, but wait a minute.
Tonight on the Spooky Talk Show Network, Scarecrow and Mrs. King, an all-new episode where Mrs. King hides behind a car, desperately waiting for a man outside of the curves. She finds one in the form of the Scarecrow. Some light bondage ensues, involving none other than guest star John Cusack. Look at them go. They start laughing, romping around. They don't even know what's happening in this moment. But anyway, that's coming up next on the Spooky Talk Show Network.
All right. Anyway, we're going to talk to Paul Hodge right now. He's our head writer, and we're going to see what he's up to and see what's going on in the world of Little Rock stand-up comedy. Paul, how you doing? Are you staying safe?
Yeah, staying real safe.
Oh, it's good to actually sit and chat with you. Normally, we just get the back and forth monologue jokes from you. So it's nice to actually sit and chat. Well, maybe we'll start doing this more often, and that way I'll understand the jokes a little better.
Yeah, maybe that would help. Of course, it's been tough writing jokes this week. Yeah, I'm good at finding the humor in a dark place, but that's all we've had lately is dark places. So.
That's true. We suddenly went from the pun show to the dark humor show, but we suddenly went to the dark humor world, so I guess that's where we are. Hey, let's talk a minute about your production company, Blue Anchor Productions.
That's what Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, so what all's happening with Blue Anchor Productions right now? Because it seems like maybe the scene is starting to open up a little bit.
Right now, with Blue Anchor specifically, there's not a lot going on. I had a show planned, but, it was a COVID casualty. So I don't have anything going on with Blue Anchor, but like you said, the scene is starting to reopen, so there's some things going on. I'm actually on a show next weekend. The open mics are starting back up this week. It's an exciting time, so it's going to be a good week.
Yeah, we've got our first return to the... Now, a lot of people don't know this, but we actually have a pretty thriving comedy scene here in Little Rock, and it's to the point where our comedians were not just going to sit around and do nothing. They're going to do Zoom shows, and we've got D So Funny has been doing a bunch of shows, Zoom shows. I've been seeing lots of invites. Small crowd, large crowd. So now we can finally, all those people who've been dying to get up and try all this new material, which, like you said, may be a little darker than normal, they can actually get out there this weekend. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but how many slots are on the bill for this weekend? Is it 5 or 6?
Well, for this weekend, I'm just doing a show with 3 comics.
With 3 comics, but there's
actually one of the D So Funny shows.
That's one of the okay.
I'm going to host it. We got Ben Malone featuring Jeffrey Eggleston, who was here for a while, kind of cut his teeth in the comedy scene here, and then he moved out to L.A. He's doing big things out there. He's coming out here to do a show, and I'm pretty excited to see him again.
Hey, that's fantastic. A little homecoming.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed there was an open mic posted on Facebook. I believe Dustin Vance posted it, and it looked like he was like, hey, we're going to go ahead and do this. First 5 or 6 people to message me will get a spot. And I mean, it was gone. It was like by the time I saw the post, it was gone, and there was a list of alternates that were just waiting to get in. So that makes me feel great. What's that?
Doing 8.
8, and there was still a list of people just waiting to people. That's fantastic. A lot of people don't realize that about the scene here. I wish we could get a few more road comics in. Because then maybe we'd get some of the people, we get you guys opening, and then people would come in and see. That's how I learned about a lot of the good comedians. I'd go see Brad Williams at the Looney Bin and find out some other comedians that I'd had no idea about. Until I started doing this show, I had no idea the number of stand-up comedians that we've got, different types of stand-up comedians that we've got in just the central Arkansas area. It's fantastic. So if you're watching this and you're not in Arkansas, that's about 4 of you, don't count us out. And if you have a comedian you'd like to see more of, send us a message and we'll get them on our show. Now, Paul, I've been following you like a lot of people have on social media to make sure that you're staying safe and still being creative and writing jokes, which it's always good to see. But now you've gotten into running lately, and which you got into before this whole thing started. How has that changed? Has COVID changed your running plan?
For the races that I was training for, yes, I was training for a half marathon, and then the COVID thing hit and that got canceled. Then I signed up for a 25K, which is a little longer than a half marathon. That got canceled too. So, for me, things are easier when I'm working toward a goal. And so it kind of sucks that the races are getting canceled. I get why, but I wish, I had that specific goal to work toward. But so I'm just kind of going a little slower and trying to build up and, stay ready when these restrictions get lifted and I can actually get out there and do a race.
Now, what have you done a race yet? Have you actually competed in one? Because I think you did one, right?
I've done like 3. I've done a couple of 5Ks and I did a 10K.
I'm just behind, completely behind. Man, okay. Well, so these ones that were canceled, these would have been like longer than you've done before.
No, yeah, a lot longer.
Yeah. Have you
going horrible, so maybe it's not so bad.
Yeah, that motivation where you've got that deadline where you've got a limited amount of time, that's got to make getting out there and run. That's got to make the motivation easier. So, is there anything else you can do to motivate yourself to get out there?
Sure. Well, with quarantine, the gyms are closed, not going out as much. So if I put on a pair of pants and they don't fit as well, that helps.
Yeah, I've been feeling that as well. I just stopped wearing pants. That's what works for me. Here's what I've got to ask: with a comedic mind, when you go jog, when you get out there and you're just running just to run? Do you get in that mind focus where you can maybe write some better jokes? Do you have that? You have that kind of thing going? A lot of people find that when they're doing something like running or exercising, it kind of frees up their mind to maybe work some kind of problem out. Have you found that that's helped your joke writing or anything?
Really has. I deliberately don't take, or don't go listen to music or podcast or anything, and it just kind of gives me some time to think. Running time is really good thinking time, so I either work out some kind of problems or, like I said, write jokes, and it really gives you that time to, focus, and you get rid of all the distractions and you get the endorphins flowing. You start feeling good. It's a really good creative, outlet.
I've never been able to achieve or feel anything what people have called that runner's high. I hear about it. I see it made fun of in Portlandia. I've never myself experienced it. I'm assuming it's just a massive rush of like endorphins and adrenaline or whatever. Have you hit that? Have you hit that point yet?
Yeah, that's a really good feeling, and it, you feel accomplished, and then the endorphins hit, and you're like, hey, this is great, and then a lot of problems fade away, and some things don't seem as bad, so you start to feel pretty good.
All right, well then I'm gonna have to figure out some way to get there. Maybe virtual reality is the way. I'll strap on a headset and jog in place for 4 or 5 hours until I hit it. Do you know the episode of Portlandia that I'm talking about where they kind of make fun of that runner's high?
Nah, you
It's
missed that one.
it's basically exactly what you said. Like all your problems disappear and everything becomes perfectly kind of focused. I've always wondered if that was real or just kind of a bunch of bullshit that runners say to try to get other people to start running with them. Uh,
I thought so, but no, it's real.
it's real. Have you
Once you do,
now? Okay, so here's a question. So you're out running, you're out jogging. You if you're not listening to podcasts, you're not listening to music, and you're just thinking. It seems like maybe you're more aware of your surroundings than someone who's listening to something. So myself, I'm a people watcher. A lot of my best stories are just as an observer in the right place at the right time. Have you seen? Because this is Arkansas. So while on your jogging expeditions, have you seen some things? Have you seen something that's maybe even inspired jokes just from being out and seeing idiots in action?
yeah. Well, I mean, running itself, usually just things that happen. I was running a 5K, and a lady pushing a baby carriage ran past me. I was like, oh, that baby's not even cute. That usually translates to a really good story. So. But just as far as things I've seen that have inspired jokes, yeah, I mean, you see all sorts of things. Like I said, people watching is fun, and I got in this running group. We go on different trails, and some of the things you see, it's like, wow, that happened.
Oh man, people watching is my favorite. So maybe I'll get into jogging just for the people watching. Maybe that's how I'll get into shape. I don't know. Probably not. Okay. So, what else should we talk about? What else is going on? Tell us more about this show this weekend. I feel like we kind of skipped over some details. So give us the full rundown on this show that's coming up.
Well, it's at the Nut House Comedy Lounge. It's the only black-owned club in Arkansas, but D's so funny. He wanted to do an all-white show. So he's got 3 of us on the show, and it's going to be a good time.
Have you changed your material? Or are you going same material, this is who I am?
There's a few jokes I'll do that, might be geared more toward a black audience. I work with a lot of black people, so a lot of the stuff that, I do a lot of work-related jokes, and a lot of the stuff, I talk about is an actual experience. So I'm not changing it so much as I'm just, relating it to this audience who would understand. I've performed at the Nut House a few times, and, it's a really cool place, and usually a cool audience. So, they're, receptive to comedy. So I don't really have to change my material for them.
That's fantastic. That's great. I have no experience with that type of crowd work. But coming from the musician side of it, sometimes you find yourself in a club or an audience that this is not our normal crowd, this is not our normal audience. Should we, and that's always the discussion before the show, should we change what we're doing? I mean, the booking guy knew who he booked. If we change, then he may feel cheated. So, do we change or do we stick to our guns and this is who he is, this is who we are, like it or not? And I always like when that's the answer and that works. And it doesn't always work, but it's always great.
Is you kind of have to be genuine because otherwise you're not going to connect with your audience. Because I think people can spot disingenuousness. And if you're changing just to, pander to an audience, it doesn't work.
I agree. See, people can spot me because I'm a phony. So I can't do stand-up because they'd be like, yeah, that guy's fake. But if I'm in a band, well, then that's okay because most guys in bands are phonies anyway. People are used to that, I guess.
Yeah, you get a bunch of phonies on stage at one time, it'll work.
Yeah, 4 phonies on stage at once. That seems to work. Yeah, that seems to work. It worked for me for a little while. I don't know. Okay. Man, I think that's about it. I'm not sure what else, unless you've got something else you want to mention.
Follow Blue Anchor Productions. I'm sure once everything gets back to normal, I'll have another show set up soon. So.
All right.
The Joint's opening up as well this week. So, you actually mentioned Dustin Vance starting the mic at Hibernia, which I ran for 5 years, and he's starting to back up there. So I'm excited to see what he does with it. So that's starting tomorrow. And then the Join is starting Tuesday and Thursday. And so it's going to be exciting to see what some of these comics do with hopefully some new material and get in there and develop some old stuff.
I'll be curious to see if a lot of them thought of kind of the same type of material. Everybody noticed the same thing while stuck at home, and it's like, oh, we all noticed that. Oh, great, we all wrote bits about that. Oh, well, all right.
Wow.
But I've seen I've seen a bit of that where I'll think of something that might be a funny bit, and then immediately, there's 5 or 6 people have already also thought of that because we're all in the same position. So.
I keep running into that too. It's like, oh, I'm got all this time to write material. So you see like a news story or see some kind of trend that starts up, and it's like, I'm going to write a joke about it, and then it's like, oh crap, everybody else did too.
And sometimes I see that, and then I think, you know what? I've been online and I've seen 3 different monologue jokes, all on the same topic, all with slightly different punchlines. All pretty good. Should 1 or 2 of them just not have done the joke? Well, no. I think they all do. I think it's like, okay, well, here's the opportunity. We all take a swing at it. And maybe we see who hits it the farthest. So if you get a monologue joke idea, just because somebody else has already done one, send it to me. If it's funny, it's funny. I don't care if it's if somebody else is doing it as well. Nobody reads it as poorly as I do, damn it. So... Paul, man, thanks again for stopping by and filling us in on the scene. And thanks especially for killing it every single episode this season with monologue jokes. Otherwise, this show would have been a lot shorter. It would have been a lot simpler. I wouldn't have had any need for a second camera. So thank you again. Thank you. We will talk to you soon, and hopefully we'll hear more monologue jokes next week. So, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Paul Hodge. And I pushed the button. There it is.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Our audience is slow to respond. Paul, thanks again, and we'll see you soon. Stay safe.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we've got this week for Spooky Talk Show. I'm your host, Josh the Devil, and I want to thank our special guest and head writer, Paul Hodge, for coming in and saving the day with some funny stuff and some funny jokes, too. Hey, how about that? What are we going to do next week? Wish I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. Actually, wait, and then you could come back and then no. It doesn't matter. We'll find out next week together, won't we? Yes, we will. Who took my soda?